President Trump has been doing some truth social posts about the Strait of Hormuz. I'm going to read some of them to you, and we're going to discuss, we're going to analyze, and understand what exactly he is saying in those truth social posts. The first one, he said, there are reports that Iran is charging fees to tankers going through the Hormuz Strait. They better not be, and if they are, they better stop now! Exclamation mark. The second post says, Iran is doing a very poor job, dishonorable, some would say, of allowing oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz. That is not the agreement we have! Exclamation mark. President Donald J. Trump. Now, what do we understand by what exactly is happening at the Strait of Hormuz, especially with respect to Trump's Truth Social Post reactions, and in the light of current realities? You know how I would describe the Strait of Hormuz? I would describe it as this at this time. The Strait of Hormuz is akin to the proverbial Yoruba, adage that refers to a man whose, reproductive sac, the scrotal a reproductive sac, has a bee on it, attached to it. The bee that stings. When a man has a bee, on his reproductive sac. It's a classic catch-22 situation. The man does not want the bee to sting his scrotal sac. That is trouble. Extremely painful, excruciatingly painful. At the same time, the man cannot take his hands to swat the bee away. Because if he swats the bee away, as in the bee away with his hands, it will still be in excruciating pain. And it also may compromise his ability to remain fertile and reproduce. The Strait of Hormuz has become for America, and particularly for President Donald J. Trump, what the Yorubas classically call Iwaju Oshe Lo, Eyin Oshe Pada Si. I will translate for the benefit of those of us who are not Yorubas. What that means essentially is that the Strait of Hormuz has become a scenario where the classic person cannot move forward and cannot go backwards, and the individual is essentially frozen in space. That is because, number one, the Strait of Hormuz has become a matter of loss of face, egg on the face, personal and national disgrace for the United States of America. In the sense that after the so-called war, after 40 days, immediately the so-called ceasefire started between Iran on one side and its allies, and America and Israel and the allies on the other side. Suddenly, Iran essentially got promoted to the level of a superpower, at least a regional superpower in the Middle East Persian Gulf environment. Simply and largely because of its control of the Strait of Hormuz. America and Israel cannot tolerate that. They absolutely do not want that. They absolutely did not plan for that. And they absolutely did not fight for 40 days and more before then just to promote Iran to the level of superpower simply because it controls the Strait of Hormuz. That is a big, big blow to the national prestige of the United States of America and Israel. Now, to make matters worse, the ordinary solution would be to come into the Strait of Hormuz via air, via sea, and via land to come and fight for it and contest for it with Iran, right? That should be the solution. That solution is also not obtainable. And why is that solution not obtainable? Because even if a bullet, an ordinary bullet, rechockets along the coast or the waters of the Strait of Hormuz, global oil futures can rise as high as $150, $200. You cannot fight for it. You cannot do a battle on the Strait of Hormuz. You can't set alight one single tanker. You cannot clash there. It essentially messes up the global oil market, and as a result, messes up entirely the global financial market. So you cannot fight for it. At the same time, Iran is not leaving a beat. And because Iran is not leaving a beat, we have a situation where Iran has essentially been promoted to world power. The second implication of President Trump's tweets, truth social posts that I read just now, is that Iran is now using the Strait of Hormuz to essentially wrest control of every other thing. It is scrambling and dragging with America and Israel from them. For whatever Iran wants from America or Israel, we are talking of concessions that America and Israel have never made and are never willing to make. All Iran needs to do is to screw tight, the nose on the Strait of Hormuz. And suddenly you would discover that they're essentially using the Strait of Hormuz to modulate America and Israeli behavior. And so far, it seems to be working. Iran actually seems to be getting away, with things it dare not before they launched the war against it on February 28th. You see, the third implication, is that the allies of America are now starting to go behind it and are starting to do individual and isolated deals with Iran just so they can get their oil. The American alliances are starting to crack. The American alliances are starting to fray at the borders. In fact, even the European alliances are starting to be affected. We are now starting to see an every man, for his own. Each man take care of his or her own interest scenario, concerning the Strait of Hormuz and the passage of oil through it. Let me give you an example. Just yesterday, it was announced that Spain, the country of Spain, has re-established and reactivated its embassy in Iran. Before the war, it is absolutely unheard of that Spain will be re-energizing its alliance with Iran when its the umbrella body it belongs, including the EU and NATO, are supposed to be officially at war with Iran, because Iran is at war with America and Israel, who are supposed to be their leaders and allies. We are now seeing Spain that is going behind the back of America, going behind the back of Israel to resuscitate its embassy in Iran. And in fact, after the tweet came out, there was a tweet by the Israeli Foreign Minister, Gideon Saar, who fired a very angry expletives essentially at the Prime Minister of Spain just because of that. So essentially, we are now starting to see, behavior, international behavior. We are starting to see geopolitical behavior that is absolutely unheard of, unprecedented, simply because Iran now has the keys to the Strait of Hormuz firmly on its hands, and it is difficult to impossible to fight for it. Immediately after, the ceasefire launched, the Europeans made a little, made some speeches here and there, suggesting that they may want to come for the Strait of Hormuz, to at least come and take it peacefully. There can never be a peaceful, contest for the Strait of Hormuz. Anyways, shortly after, Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, paid a visit to Trump, and essentially it was a mess. It was a diplomatic mess. Trump was huffing and puffing. Europe must join the war. Whichever European country just does not join the war, he would punish them by withdrawing American soldiers from the territory and all. But he still is not able to get away with things he used to get away with, simply because Iran is fully in charge on the Strait of Hormuz. So it's a cul-de-sac. It's a catch-22 situation, particularly for America at this time, simply because Iran is now fully in charge of the Strait of Hormuz, even after a 40-day war and even, more painful military exploits before then. It's a complete reversal of fortunes. And that is what is happening concerning the Strait of Hormuz vis-a-vis President Trump and the Iranians at this time. Thank you for joining me on this video. Again, don't forget to like, to share, to comment, to subscribe, and to toggle the notification button so that you can continue to enjoy our content. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.